There's no doubt that improving at Fortnite has its ups and downs. When you're trying to get better at the game, you may feel like you're doing everything right and you're using the correct practice methods, but you still can't seem to improve for whatever reason. So in today's video, guys, what I'm going to be doing is showing you guys why you might not be improving in Fortnite Chapter 4 or not improving at the pace you want to improve at. This video is going to help you improve much faster and become a better player. Before we get into it, be sure to drop a like on the video if it helps you out, subscribe if you're new to the channel and you want to see more, and it would really mean a lot if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you guys and it seriously does help me out a bunch. And lastly, guys, just a quick self-promotion plug real quick. If you don't know, I do offer direct one-on-one Fortnite coaching. In my coaching sessions, I go over basically anything you need help with, from mechanics to arena to aim or anything in between, or even a combination of things. Obviously, my videos are always going to be free and the coaching is paid, but if you're interested in that, then feel free to send me a DM over on Twitter at Teckoh with 2 H's. And if you're interested in doing the coaching, we can figure out all the information and get it scheduled. Of course, guys, I'm going to continue to grind out YouTube videos and that's always going to be free. But if you want to step that up and get some direct one-on-one guidance, then definitely hit me up over on Twitter. The Twitter link is going to be down in the description, or once again, it's going to be Teckoh with 2 H's. But with that said, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So the first major issue that people have when they're trying to improve at Fortnite is that they fail to take accountability. Taking accountability for your mistakes is one of the most important things you can possibly do in Fortnite, if you're trying to improve, that is. To improve at Fortnite, you really need to find your mistakes and figure out how to improve upon them, and if you don't take accountability for your actions, if you don't take accountability for your mistakes, then you probably won't even know that you made a mistake. What a lot of people do in Fortnite nowadays is they make a mistake, they get killed for it, they get mad about it, and then they forget about it in 10 minutes and queue into another game. And the big issue with that is that you're not able to actually figure out what you did wrong and improve upon that if you don't take accountability for your actions. Now, I know a lot of you guys might be getting defensive right now and thinking, well, in a lot of those situations, it's really not my fault. And maybe some aspects of the situation might not be your fault. For example, someone jumps in your box and it's just an unlucky situation, or you get sprayed by the entire lobby and it's completely shambles. But the fact of the matter is, there's always some sort of cause for your loss. Even if it's not a directly visible cause, even if it's not something that pops out to you immediately, there's always some reason that you lost the game. And being able to take accountability for that and really accept that you make mistakes is going to help you guys so much when you're trying to improve. And if you're not taking accountability for your actions and for your losses, you'll definitely be holding yourself back. So all in all, if you're trying to improve, you need to face the fact that you make mistakes or else you'd win every game. And instead of getting mad and defensive when you lose, take that time to actually figure out what you did wrong and improve upon it. And circling back to that idea of not figuring out what you're doing wrong, the second mistake that holds so many people back in Fortnite nowadays is not VOD reviewing. This one ties in directly to accountability, and they're pretty much one and the same. The reason I say that is because VOD reviewing requires you to actually take accountability and realize that you're making mistakes. What VOD reviewing is, if you're not familiar with it, is basically you just going into replay mode or any other variation of looking back at your game and looking at your gameplay to figure out what you did right, what you did wrong, and what you can do better in the future. VOD reviewing your own gameplay is absolutely crucial to find ways you can improve in Fortnite, because let's face it, when you're in the moment, when you just got killed, you're really not analyzing every aspect of that game. And a lot of the time when we get killed, we're pissed off for the moment and we're really not thinking straight. And even if we did make a certain mistake, if there is something to learn from our situation, we really don't learn anything simply because we queue out and queue back into a new game. What I recommend you guys do when it comes to VOD reviewing is to take some time at least once or twice per week, and I'd say take around 30 minutes of time to look back at your games and figure out areas where you can improve. This sort of reflection upon your gameplay really allows you to figure out what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and it really just gives you some valuable insight as to how your games go. Chances are, if you spend some time VOD reviewing, you can definitely find some areas of your gameplay to improve upon, and sorting out those weaknesses that you might have is so helpful when it comes to improving at the game. So if you're not VOD reviewing already, that's definitely something you should start doing, especially if you find yourself not improving. Another option you can do when it comes to VOD reviews is something I call third-person VOD reviews. A first-person VOD review is basically you watching your own gameplay, aka what we just talked about, whereas a third-person VOD review is watching it from the third person, which means watching pros. What watching pros allows you to do is find new techniques, find new strategies, and just general ideas with your gameplay. The thing is, if you only play your own games and watch your own gameplay, the only real strategies and ideas you're going to be shown are your own. So on the other hand, when you actually take the time to watch pros and figure out what they do, you're able to find a ton of new ideas, and basically it just opens up a whole new realm of different ideas. What I recommend you guys do is one of three things. Either head onto YouTube and find a video of a pro playing a tournament or a scrim or whatever you want to see, or you can simply watch them on Twitch, or another option you can do is go to the compete tab in game and then click on any of the tournaments that are recent, and you should be able to find a full match history for every single player on there, where you can literally just click and watch the entire replay of every single one of their games. However you decide to approach it, I recommend you have some way of taking notes, whether that's on your computer, whether that's a physical notepad or whatever else, and basically just take note on the things that you notice that can apply to your own gameplay. This can be anything like mechanical moves they do, or how they rotate certain zones, or literally just anything like that. Take notes on anything and everything you see. And by doing this, you can find a ton of new strategies, a ton of new ideas that can help you improve a ton. Getting into our next section though, and this one is improper creative practice. practice. When it comes to creative, a lot of people just approach it in the wrong way. Creative practice should first and foremost target your weaknesses, whether those are certain types of fights, specific mechanical stuff, or whatever else they might be. And this is a very nice thread because it actually does tie right back into not VOD reviewing. By VOD reviewing, you're able to actually find your weaknesses, and through creative, you're able to actually target them and improve upon them, assuming those weaknesses are mechanical and not something like poor game sense. So when you're in creative, I know a lot of people like to just hop into a 1v1 or go crank out some free builds, but something you should really consider is that those things are good, but you should also take the time to figure out where your exact weaknesses are and take the time to improve on those. As you know, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, so figure out your weakest links and improve on them. Another thing to consider is that you should try to spend a relatively balanced amount of time in creative versus regular games. Having that balance between the different types of gameplay is absolutely critical because it's hard to get some of the creative aspects in real games. For example, it's super hard to really improve your building and editing by just playing regular games, but it's also basically impossible to improve your real game sense when you're just playing creative all day. So what I recommend is around a 2-to-1 ratio in favor of regular games. That means about 2/3 of your gameplay is spent in regular games or VOD reviewing those games, and the other 1/3 of your gameplay is spent doing things in creative, whether they're mechanical or fighting or whatever else. Finally, guys, the last tip I have for creative is to always try to practice against skilled players. That way you can adapt to more difficult playstyles. The fact of the matter is, in Fortnite, you have to be ready for anything, and being ready for those crazy players that you run into who just seem to clobber everybody they run into is super helpful, because when you run into worse players than that, you're basically able to just run through them because the average player you go against is way better. So when you do fighting practice in creative and whatnot, try to go against somebody who's about equally matched to you or maybe even a little bit better than you. That way you always have something to adapt to and you can improve at the game. Finally, guys, getting into the last reason that you might not be improving at Fortnite, and this one is improper practice timing. A very common issue people have in Fortnite when they're trying to improve is that they simply don't put enough time in. Like, honestly, guys, if you're hopping into Fortnite just once in a while and you're playing for maybe like 2 or 3 hours a week, the fact of the matter is that you really don't have enough time to make significant progress in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, you can get better at the game on pretty much any amount of time as long as you're playing, but if you're really trying to step things up and you're really trying to get better at the game, you are going to need to simply put enough time in where you can actually do that. Now, obviously, there's a very fine balance between playing like 30 minutes once a week versus playing something like 8 to 10 hours a day, which is just crazy. But really, you want to play enough where you can stay focused and get good practice while also not becoming bored or becoming mentally drained. Playing too much can be counterintuitive because you lose focus and you stop being as efficient with your practice, but also playing too little can be counterintuitive simply because you're not practicing enough. I find that generally, in terms of optimal improvement, most players do best when they're playing around 4 to 6 hours per day, around 5 times a week. Now, obviously, that's basically a part-time job, so you really don't have to do that. And don't think for a second that if you don't play that much, you're not going to get better. That is just the optimal time frame that'll probably make you the most progress. It won't get you mentally drained, but it'll still give you a ton of good practice. But overall, guys, my main point here is just to make sure that you're in a reasonable range and try not to play too much or too little. Simply putting enough time in to practice the game is something that a lot of people don't do for some reason, even though it's a pretty simple one. So I just wanted to toss that in there for you guys. But with that said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on the reasons you might not be improving at Fortnite. Hopefully this video gave you some really good insight as to what you can do to improve way faster at the game and the things that might actually be holding you back right now. If you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like on it. Consider subscribing as well if you're new to the channel and you want to see more content just like this in the future. And lastly, guys, it would really be appreciated if you could use code Teckoh in the item shop. It's 100% free for you and it seriously does help me out a bunch. So as always, thank you so much to everyone who uses it. But with that said, thank you all for watching this video and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.